Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Can you hear me all right at the back of the room? By way of introduction, my name is Pat Lynch, and on behalf of all of us here at Lynch & Sons, I'd like to welcome you to our home as we gather this morning to mourn the death, but more importantly, to celebrate the life of Greg Irwin. And on behalf of Carrie and Marcus and Cece, I'd like to offer their thanks to each of you for your presence with them here in such overwhelming numbers. Today's service will be not your typical service. There will be reflections. There will be an opportunity for any of you that choose to offer a brief reflection to do so. I use the term brief intentionally. A couple of minutes rather than 20 minutes is the goal. But please feel free to do that. You're able to do it from where you sit. The sound carries pretty well in this room, or you can come up here to the podium and use the microphone. To begin our service by way of a welcome, why don't you come forward?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for being here today. I'm just looking over amongst the crowd and I see so many loved ones, so many faces. This room is packed with so much happiness that you bring to us, and I appreciate you all being here today. I want to start off with saying you win some, you lose most, and we are gathered here today to remember and honor the life of the man who meant the most to me, Gregory. He was a dad, a husband, a father, a son, a family member, and a friend who meant so much to us all. He asked for something simple, nothing elaborate, nothing formal, just a quiet time to remember his life, the love he gave, and the peace he found in the simple things. If you knew him, you know he was the happiest outdoors. The fishing pole in his hand, surrounded by nature, on the edge of the water, or on it, or in it sometimes. And that's where life really slowed down and he was at peace. So as today we gather in the same spirit of peace and simplicity that he lived his life in, and to celebrate his life and hold close the memories he leaves with us all. Thank you for all being here today.
So, a couple of days after Greg passed, we got a note from Carrie, a text from her, and she had asked us to participate by picking out something maybe appropriate from the Bible passage and reading that. And we're delighted, of course, we want to help. We want to do something to help here. And right away, Maria and I sat and considered these things and tried to come up with something that was appropriate. And we did. We came up with some. And as we were contemplating this, we got another text from Carrie. And is it okay? If I share this? I need some authorization from the author. But it was probably better than anything we ever came up with here. But if I can, again, I think trying to maybe give us some guidance here on what to look for. And so Carrie says this. She says, when I think of Greg, I think of someone who was truly at home under the open sky. He didn't just walk through the world, he listened to it. He found his peace in the quiet of the woods, in the mornings when everything was waking up, the rhythm of the waters on the river, and the majesty of God's creation. How does that work? Is that about spot on? I think so. And part of what I'm saying here, I guess, is a part of that personal reflection stuff later, although Mr. Lynch, wherever you are, I won't be 20 minutes, I promise. But, my link to Greg, of course, a friend, we did a lot of outdoorsy stuff together, a lot of hunting and fishing, and we have a place up in Oscoda, and we'd meet there a lot, several times a year to cleanse the soul, as Uncle Ted would say. And the scene would go something like this. I mean, we'd be there, and Greg would come, and often coming from work, and he'd kind of quietly slip in the door, and you could see on his face, and Marcus is smiling over here because he's seen this, he's still balled up in tenseness, stress, because he's a hard-working guy. Let's face it, he works real hard. He's a detail guy. He's a problem solver, and like his head is working towards a solution to these problems all the time. So he needs some release for that eventually, and I think that's where the outdoors came into play for him. So he would come in kind of quietly. I mean, we knew, Rob and I, and Mark, I mean, we know this, and then he would kind of go to the back, drop his gear, come back out, and sit down, and then suddenly we're, asking questions of each other, like, well, where are we going tomorrow morning? What's happening? What's the weather like? And we'd get our phones out, and I'd get Weather Channel app, and Greg would get Weather Bug, and we'd start comparing. Well, it's going to be 30% chance. Well, Weather Channel says 25% chance. We talk about that for 10 minutes. And all the variations of possibilities are going on. What's the lunar cycle going to be? Seriously, we consider all this. What happened the last time we were here? If it was fishing, it was about lures and places that we fished before. Where are we going tomorrow? Does everything work? So everything on the boat worked. So as this was going on, you could see the stressness just kind of melt off of him, just as we were even talking about it. It was an elixir for him, really like nothing else. And of course, by the time we got up the next morning, and he'd march out at 4 o'clock in the morning with his coffee and his gear, and he's looking up the weather again on his app. And, I mean, he was ready to go, and it was fantastic, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll tell you, I'm just going to share with you one brief story here, and then we'll move on here to Psalm 139. But this took place in 2020, and it was about then that I didn't hear much about it before, but apparently he was very proud of a particular record, a particular streak that he had, which was the number of years that he was in the woods hunting on opening day firearm season. And I remember him talking about this, saying, it's been 22 years in a row that I've been out there in the woods. I'm like, okay, So, did you hear this before? Did he tell you that too? Oh yeah. So now I might be off a year or two by 2020 here, but you get the idea. So so on this particular time, it was just me and him in the cabin, right, on the 14th, the evening of the 14th. And we're doing the same thing. We're like looking at the phones for the wind, the weather and the lunar cycles and all this stuff that is important to us. But the problem was, it was raining outside. And I mean, it was really raining. It was pouring rain. Which to me was like, well, I don't know. But Greg's not even thinking about it. Like, okay, it's rain, so what? Now, I was lucky enough, I got a deer about a week before, so I really felt no pressure to deal with that. So we're talking about just like anything now, and he goes, so it says to me, are you going? I'm like, well, yeah, I don't know. Kind of depends. I might go later on in the day or something if it stops raining. It's like, okay, So go to bed, get up at 4, right? My alarm goes off. I'm listening and I'm hearing the rain hitting the roof of the cabin. Real hard. Again, just like it was the night before. So I'm thinking, I don't know. But I'm hearing the rain, and then I'm hearing, the coffee machine going. And I'm hearing, footsteps back and forth across the cabin. I hear the door open, and he's going outside. Remember, it's just the two of us now, so it's him. He's going outside to, look out, feel the rain in his face. And so I go out. He looks at me and says, You're not going? I'm like, no. Maybe I'll go later, you know. He's like, well, I gotta go. You know, okay. So, you know, drinks his coffee, he's checking his phone, pulls his boots on, bibs, coat, out the door he goes. Now, on this particular occasion, he's gonna be walking about a half a mile through the woods to his tree stand, right? So he's gonna be in a tree after a half-mile walk in the pouring deluge of rain. So, okay, so I think I went back to bed, got up about 7:30, you know, he's not there still, right? Well, that's kind of what I expected. I think it was about 10:30 or so. But finally I see him come into the door. And the door opens and he's soaked. I mean, picture this if you can. A man with heavy honeycoat on, bibs, probably about 8 layers of clothes, boots, gun, backpack. And with all of that, he jumps in a lake, right? That's what he looked like. Water just pouring off his hat, running down his face, and he closes the door, he looks around at me, and he's got this huge smile on his face. I was in shock, because I'm expecting kind of misery here after all of that. No, he's big smiles. I'm like, did you see something? He's smiling, he says, no, but it's 23 years in a row. All right, man. Fantastic. You get that wetsuit off and I'll go get you some coffee. It was beautiful. So, I mean, his deal is, I mean, that's not going to stop. The only thing I ever saw that would stop him was if it was below 0. And we were close a couple years ago, remember that? Below 0, no. And the only reason we went back in was because you and Vince were with us. Right? You guys were freezing. Otherwise, we'd stay out. But below 0, or if it's a thunderstorm, and that's exactly it. All right. So Psalm 139. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You understand my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down. You are aware of all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, you know all about it, O Lord. You hem me in behind and before. You have laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. So where can I go to escape your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to the heavens, you are there. And if I make my bed deep in the forest, you are also there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle by the farthest sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light become night around me, even the darkness is not dark to you, but the night shines like the day, for darkness is as light to you. For you formed my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and I know this very well. My frame is not hidden from you when I was made in secret, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All my days were already written in your book and preordained for me before any one of them ever came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is their sum. If I were to count them, they would outnumber all of the grains of sand. And when I awake, I am still with you. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kevin, and I'm Greg's brother from Ohio.
That's all right.
Yeah, I needed to get that in there because it'll be important later on. And I get to get my 15 minutes in with my brother right here. So, Carrie asked me to speak today. I was very honored, but I really struggled with what I was going to say today. It was really so sad to think about his life interrupted, and in his words, when we talked, he felt like he was leaving things incomplete. Working through the loss of my brother took me back thinking about the 15 years that him and I shared a room together. And I decided it was going to be very hard to add on to Carrie's touching obituary. And I thought the best that I could do was give you a personal perspective of Greg the boy that became the outdoorsman. Most importantly, I want to share a philosophy of life that he enriched himself with, and I think inspires us all. Gregory Wayne Irwin was born June 2nd, 1970, to Richard and Glenda Irwin, who resided at 3400 Waynesburg Drive in Canton, Ohio. Greg's home came with a big brother, a fantastic sandbox, and 3 great climbing trees. One that we could climb onto the roof of the detached garage, one for climbing high enough to see the entire neighborhood, and the last one that was just perfect for a tree hut. What more could a boy want? I cannot wait for my brother to grow up and play outside. Legend had it that I taught Greg how to climb out of his crib so he could come and play together. As we grew more independent as little boys do, we approached playing outside like it was a full-time job. We were up with the sun, a bowl of Cheerios and milk, and a half a cup of sugar. We started the day with removal of cat deposits from the sandbox and getting down to important earth-working moving projects. Sandbox projects were interrupted with occasional big wheel rides, lunch, and tree climbing. Then the pretty babysitters up the street helped us build the infamous tree hut, which was a shabby wood platform with a dangerous hanging rope to climb up and down out of it, and a sign with glue and glitter that said Irwin Tree Hut. Greg was determined to enjoy that tree hut, but he was too little, and he fell multiple times from the tree into the hedges that were near the hut. One day, he used the rope to slide down out of the tree barehanded, bird in his hands. Mom made Dad knock that tree hut down. A sad day for the brown bear. That was the name that we gave him in the family name because the deep dark tan that he achieved running around all summer, shirtless and shoeless. Looking back, I realized that he was only 5 or 6, 7 years old, but I remember a fearless little boy who loved the outdoors. In 1976, we moved from Waynesburg Drive to 2620 Baum Road, Canton, Ohio. The house came with considerable acreage, covered with trees, a long driveway that was later asphalted for maximum bike speed, a basketball hoop, and access to strip mine spoils, and acres of farm fields and trees. Greg moved there with a big brother and his little sister Lori. Big wheels were replaced with bicycles and a plethora of trees to climb and fall from. What more could a boy need? Those 9 years on the Baum Road property were his most formative years of his life. There, the outdoorsman began to emerge. Activities included elaborate roping systems in trees, damming creeks on the property to make mud pottery that would dry in the sun, battles with paper wasps in like really large nests that would end very badly, elaborate Civil War battle reenactments with toy soldiers, and the arrival of his first dog, Josie. She was the family dog, but in reality, she was Greg's dog. So they spent a lot of time in the woods together. But the real game changer was when we received our 2 first motorcycles for Christmas. 2 brand new Honda XR75s, and later, Greg's new BB gun. This allowed us to explore deeply into the strip mine spoils and venture far into the back acreage of woods and farmers' fields. But most importantly, Greg was now armed. Greg became a sharpshooter, There were tree frogs along these creeks that bisected the property. These frogs would sit on the trees and then gracefully jump in an arc into the creek whenever startled. Greg would lie on his belly on a waterlogged wood bridge that crossed the creek and wait for a really long time. Then he would signal me that I was supposed to run down the hill, startle the frogs, and then he would pick them off. I'm not saying he's a frog sniper, but I saw him get it. I saw him get two. But by far the high point was when we discovered a hidden pond in the back acreage behind the strip mine spoils on one of our multiple motorcycle exploration rides. The pond was obscured by trees and was at the bottom of a plateau surrounded by thick brush, jiggers, and blackberry bushes. Most importantly, this secret pond had fish and turtles. This became Greg's new obsession, and we began regular visits to the pond. We cut access trails, cleared a path to a boulder at the edge of the pond that he named Fish Rock. He took ownership of this fishing hole and became a little possessive and bossy about it. He would allow out-of-town cousins to come and fish at that fishing hole, but nobody local was allowed to go with us. He said, too many people are going to know about it and get fished out. And he also developed techniques about how we were allowed to approach the pond. He would shut down the motorcycles far away. We would hike up the trail, no talking. We'd ease down to Fish Rock. Greg became a leader at that pond. One day we got to the pond and we descended to Fish Rock, and he kind of gasped, whispered, "Somebody's been here." And he pointed to a can of corn at the bottom of the pond through the crystal clear shimmering water. He was not happy with this intrusion. And we needed to get that can of corn. Years later, I learned that this was not the first time he nearly drowned. But that crystal clear water was deeper than we thought. And I was pretty sure I had a good hold of his legs. Needless to say, he got that can of corn. Greg developed a deep love of nature and how it fueled life. And that nature needed to be revered and protected. Looking back, I realized we were seeing a fearless and stoic boy emerging. Girls, cars, sports, and instrumental music took hold of us, and our adventures in the outdoors were less and less. His times in the woods became more solitary and more just exploring with his dog Josie. As Greg grew taller, he got the nickname Tall, Dark, and Handsome. This came from the older girls on the school bus, basically because his long legs went from the floor to his neck. He was a young man with many talents. He was a good baseball player. He played the trumpet. He loved Civil War history, and he excelled in basketball. He was a great teammate. He was well-liked and friendly with everyone. Greg was tall and a thoughtful young man. In 1985, when I went to college and the family moved to Michigan. High school and college consumed our lives. We visited each other's colleges. We spent the holidays together, and we started our careers. Greg worked in the beginning at a nursery planting trees, and a real dirty job, but he loved it. And then began working in the auto industry as a controls engineer. He discovered what he would talk to me called up north. And he would use his hand like a mitten to show me amazing places he had visited. And he made lifelong friends hunting and fishing in these areas. But he was beginning to use nature to recharge himself after long weeks working. Greg was maturing, and he displayed a humble fortitude, working through personal and professional adversities. Then Greg met Carrie. Greg brought Carrie to meet Steph and my young children, who instantly fell in love with her. Later, he told me he found the one who he thought he could build his life with, if she would have him. Luckily, she took him. He married this beautiful, compassionate, spunky woman, bought a nice home in Ferndale, and then had a dog of a lifetime named Forrest. What more can a man need? Greg married into a family who extended his love of the outdoors. He found a connection with Carrie's father, Mark, who he admired and respected. He expanded the circle of the people who he cared for, helping and assisting others. Greg was generous with his time. He was generous to helping people, but he was kind of hard to help. The arrival of Marcus and Cecilia changed him profoundly. These children were the apples in his eye. They were the sun, the moon, and the stars in his life. Greg's love language was acts of service. He did so much for so many. He became fiercely independent, worked hard, and put his family first. He put down deep roots and protected those who he cared for. I recall a conversation that Greg had with Steph and I when we sat during a holiday visit. We were getting rather philosophical, discussing what's important in life, and Greg started talking about his love of trees and the happiness that comes from simple things found in nature. Everybody needs a tree, he said. We laughed, but looking back on Greg's words today, make it clear that those words tell us everything we need to know about Greg. Trees are common symbols in literature, especially poetry. Trees symbolize strength, endurance, family, and connection. Trees grow tall and remain standing for centuries. Trees endure despite being ravaged by storms and bearing witness to the atrocities of history. A tree's branches reach far and wide in many directions, and its roots grow deep into the earth. Greg was that strong tree. This was his life. He was tall, stoic, and brave. He put down deep roots, provided shelter to us when needed, and he enabled strong, capable branches. These roots were his foundation. The strong trunk was his perseverance through difficult times. The branches reaching in all directions connected him to his precious wife, his children, his family, his friends, his co-workers, and all who were touched by his presence in this world. It feels like something has been stolen from us, but we have to look at what Greg left for us. Everybody needs a tree. We were lucky. We had Greg Irwin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steph Irwin. I'm Greg's sister-in-law, Kevin's wife. Carrie asked me to read a poem today, and I think I found the perfect one because it is about a tree and a little boy climbing it. Before I read the poem, I feel obligated only because Greg loved history so much. I know that if he were sitting here, he's here, he would listen intently to my little bit of historical trivia, and he'd be interested, because that was Greg. Any conversation that I ever had with him throughout the years, he had that intentional quality about him that so few people have. The kind of quality that the person's looking you right in the eye, and they're nodding, and they're really and truly listening. And he was always interested in what I had to say, and I think probably that would resonate with everybody in this room who knew him well. He was a listener, and he really wanted to hear what you had to say. He was really glad to see you, because I didn't get to see him all that often. So, the poet of the poem that I'm going to read today is Robert Frost. I hope someone in the room has heard of Robert Frost, but he was an English teacher, and I always think everybody knows all these poets' names, but that's not true. But Robert Frost was a famous American poet from the first half of the 20th century. And the piece of historical trivia that I'll share, just because again, I think Greg would have been interested, so you all have to just pretend you're really, really interested in what I'm saying, is that Robert Frost was the first American poet to be asked to read a poem at a presidential inauguration. So JFK asked Robert Frost to write a poem and read it, and so he was the first poet to do so. Another little bit of interesting historical trivia about that day. Frost at the time was 86 years old, just 2 years from his own death. And it was a cold, really bright, sunny day. And so he was at the podium on one side flanked by JFK and on the other side flanked by Lyndon B. Johnson. I think I got that right, Vice President. And it was the sun's glare was so strong that he could not read the poem. And Johnson even put his top hat over the poem so that it would hide the glare and that hopefully Frost could read it. He was unable to read it. There was a poem called Dedication that he had written for the day. And so he stopped reading and he just went into a different poem, The Gift Outright, which he had written decades prior and he knew by heart. And so he read that poem. And so I'm picturing Greg right now saying, "Huh, that's pretty interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know that." So that's my little homage to Greg and his love of history, which he shares with his brother. So. But the poem that I'm going to read today is a poem that Frost wrote early in his career, and it's called Birches. When I see birches bend to left and right across the lines of straighter, darker trees, I like to think some boy's been swinging them. But swinging doesn't bend them down to stay as ice storms do. Often you must have seen them, loaded with snow on a sunny winter morning after a rain. They click upon themselves as the breeze rises and turn many-colored as the stir cracks and creases their enamel. Soon the sun's warmth makes them shed crystal shells, shattering and avalanching on the snow crust. Such heaps of broken glass to sweep away, you'd think the inner dome of heaven had fallen. They are dragged to the withered bracken by the load, and they seem not to break, though once they are bowed so low for long, they never right themselves. You may see their trunks arching in the woods years afterwards, trailing their leaves on the ground like girls on hands and knees that throw their hair before them over their heads to dry in the sun. But I was going to say, when truth broke in with all her matter of fact about the ice storm, I should prefer to have some boy bend them. As he went out and in to fetch the cows, some boy too far from town to learn baseball, whose only play was what he found himself. Summer or winter, and could play alone. One by one, he subdued his father's trees by riding them down over and over again until he took the stiffness out of them. And not one hung but limp, not one was left for him to conquer. He learned all there was to learn about not launching out too soon and so not carrying the tree away clear to the ground. He always kept his poise to the top branches, climbing carefully with the same pains you use to fill a cup up to the brim, and even above the brim. And then he flung outward, feet first, with a swish, kicking his way down through the air to the ground. So was I once myself a swinger of birches, and so I dream of going back to be. It's when I'm weary of considerations and life is too much like a pathless wood, where your face burns and tickles with the cobwebs broken across it, and one eye is weeping from a twig's having lashed across it open. I'd like to get away from earth a while, and then come back to it, and begin over. May no fate willfully misunderstand me and half grant what I wish and snatch me away not to return. Earth, the right place for love. I don't know where it's likely to go better. I'd like to go by climbing a tree, a birch tree, and climb back black branches up a snow-white trunk toward heaven, till the tree could bear no more, but dipped its top and set me down again. That would be good, both going and coming back. One could do worse than be a swinger. of birches.
So this is the time when the program is opened up to the sharing of memories by anyone that chooses to do so. If you feel awkward in doing that, put those memories in your mind and reflect. But if you feel comfortable, you can stand in place where you are, or you can come to the podium. And we'll give it a few minutes, and if no one does that, then Carrie will offer her reflections. And I think Cecilia might have a word to say. So maybe, Cecilia, you could do that while people get their thoughts in order.
Hi everyone. Bear with me. I'm not very good at speeches or anything, but I do want to say something. Marcus kind of stole my beginning, but I'm not sure how to even start this off, but I guess there's no right way. To my dad, or some of you might have known him as friend, husband, co-worker, and family. When we first found out that he ran out of options, that there was no more trials or treatment, my heart shattered. I couldn't even look him in the eyes when he was telling me. But there was one thing that he said to me, kind of good in the sadness of news. So while I'm trying to find a reason that and think positively, out of all the reasons I thought, this one was my favorite. That God needed him in a way of perspective. He always knew how to calm me or Mom down. And give us a different perspective on things, to look at the bigger picture. And that's why God needed him, to help others help him. And of course, he's still up there on the lake with Papa on the other side of the boat, and Force laying down at his feet. They're at peace, and they will always be looking over us. I will always carry my dad through looking at the corner of this soccer field where he always loved to watch me, over the birds and ducks flying over and hearing them chirp. Or I don't know what ducks do. And one of my favorites is that he will visit me in my dreams. I'll share something. The day that he passed that night, he did come to me in my dream, and he had dark hair and a lot of it. He grabbed his suit for hunting. I don't know what it's called. He was trying it on, and he was taking it up to heaven. Those are the signs that what helps me keep going. He was a great man and the best father I could ever ask for. Him and Mom made me what I am today. And I hope you get a birthday fish today. Thank you. So anyone can come up or just stand up. Yeah.
My name is Emma, Kevin and Tess, oldest daughter, Gregory's niece. So when they told us that they were going to be sharing with memory, I have to follow about what I wanted to say. And I think that my favorite memory, shortly after my daughter was born, Greg and Carrie were in Ohio and came to visit us. She was still an infant, very young, and they were very excited that my husband and I invited them over to meet her, Amelia. And I think something that will stay with me forever is how when Greg told Amelia, he looked at her in awe and was so teary about a child that, wasn't his. I'm his niece, not his daughter. So that was just very impactful to me, how much love he had when he was found her, and just a true testament to what an amazing father he was. Thanks for letting me share.
I'm Vivian. I'm Maddie's younger sister. And when I was younger, I would watch Casey and Maddie play, and I just remembered him because I would always like run around, and like I would always hang out with him and his dog. And his dog was cool. And we're always like running around and playing with his dog. That was it. But he was cool.
She hated soccer games, but Greg would always find a way to entertain her.
Yeah.
Hope you're listening for this one, Uncle. Hi, everyone. My name is Corey. I am Greg's oldest nephew. If you know me, I'm probably, you'll know I'm not good at conciseness, so I'm going to do this stream of conscious as best as I can, and hopefully I won't be bitten. You'll understand this, Uncle, in just a moment. I would say, you know, as you get older, memories morph and fragment, but the big thing that I'll remember is, thanks to my mom and dad, I've got 2 uncles here on earth, one up there, and he would always be there for all the early memories and birthdays. When I look back on it now, he was around my age and doing all that. Doing all the uncle things, listening to you, contributing a present here or two, how you doing? And he did that with my sisters, Emma and Aubrey, when they came up. And the memory that's still very clear to me is when we were really little and we were coming up, and I think he asked my dad permission to take me to the zoo. And we were driving and being good, because mom and dad said, you better be good. He said, we're gonna go pick up somebody. We were going to, and we met you, Auntie. And I remember him always in the behind us watching and all that, and yeah, and now I'm an uncle because my sister said her child, she's there with her parents right now, and I get to be an uncle. I get to wind her up. I get to do all the little things now that you've done with me, Uncle. And for my 2 cousins that he gave me, and we've done so many swap leagues growing up, I was always the big person who had to watch my cousins and their friends growing up. There's this show I watched, and the leading lady was in grief, and the leading man said, well, from what I see, oh Lord, sorry. Grief is love having to be by itself and walking forward. See you soon, Uncle, but not too soon.
My name is Jane Bell, and I'm a close friend of Greg and the family. Sorry, I can't see you with these. Carrie and C and Marcus, Mr. Irwin. I'm so sorry. I wish I could take a magic wand. I could go look.
I was thinking the other day, you know, when we stand up in funerals, it's natural to focus on all the good things and how amazing the person was. And I've sometimes wondered, what are they leaving on? But I think we can all agree, you know, the honest truth is that we all knew who Greg was. He was a truly amazing human. Greg was a solid, kind, and genuinely good man. You look around the room, look at all the lights he's touched. In life, Greg had a powerful presence. Good, pure vibes. He was never loud, but when he was with you, he was entirely there. He was engaged, interested, deeply kind, and completely supportive. He made you feel seen. Greg never wasted his time. He poured his energy only into the things that truly matter: family, friends, work hard, play hard mentality, nature. And Greg's words carried weight, depth, honesty, and meaning. He was someone we could all trust implicitly. He valued the simple, wholesome, essential things in life, and he had a rare gift for making people around him feel like they mattered. He was humble, and his focus remained on others. And I still can't believe it, God. But my only comfort now, it's hoping that Greg can finally see just how much he mattered to all of us. And I can really strongly feel Greg's presence still here today, and I hope he's listening. So, Greg, please, I really want you to know how special and deeply loved you are. You made a difference while you were here. You've been a true gift to me, to my family, to this world. And I'm heartbroken for all of us left behind, but I'm so forever grateful for your friendship and the unwavering care you showed my family through the years. We love you and miss you so much. So, I'm just going to share a brief story because I think it's safe to say now he can't get in trouble by mom and dad for this. We're going to go back to when we had our XR75s. There were two, and I'm the baby. And there was one that was always broken. And someone always had to take me on the bike. This was Greg's opportunity to take me on the bike. We all know Greg's achievement goals, and he felt that he could climb this hill, but I was on it. He was gallantry enough to give me the helmet, because we always had to wear helmets. He went without a helmet. Mom did not know. We did this off-site when we got back where Mom couldn't see us. So he gave me the helmet, and everybody knows he couldn't say my name, so it was Lolo. I'm riding along, and I couldn't see, and he said, "Lolo, hold on." I knew what he was going to do. We were going to climb this hill that he has not successfully climbed ever. I held on tight. There's nothing better than holding on to your brother for your dear life. I buried my head with the helmet in his back. And if anybody knows what the strip mines are, they are shale. It is cut up shale, right? That word there. I knew we weren't going to make it up the hill about halfway. I knew this because Greg stood up. And he turned around and pushed me. And I tumbled down the shale. Greg made it up the hill. Helmet did not fit, rolled, and I was down at the bottom of the hill. Greg dumped his bike. Me, down at the bottom of the hill, ran like no, and if you run on shale, you don't have good footing. You're running and you're bummed. He realized after his triumph that this was problematic, that he was going to have to answer to Mom and Dad because of the numerous scratches on my body. He comes down the hill and he says, "Don't you dare tell Mom." Now, if you've had siblings, we all have things that we hang over each other for those moments when it's important that we use that to get ourselves out of trouble. Kevin was not there. Kevin was always the mediator of, well, let's think this through, how we can approach this, Mom and Dad. Greg and I did not have that fortitude. We were trying to think above a lie, while I knew this was something I could hold over his head forever. Which I gladly held. We decided that the lie was going to be to Mom and Dad, that we were going back to his fishing hole and that I had gotten scratched up, and that's how I got those wounds. The point of the story is that if you knew Greg, if he had a goal, even if it was pushing his little sister on the back of the bike, which he knew he might get in severe trouble for, he accomplished that goal. And by the faces here today, he's accomplished the goal of many people who love you and care for him. I finally told Mom and Dad. I have held that for 40 some odd years. And I promise you won't get in trouble. I don't think we wouldn't have gotten in trouble then, but. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's Fiona. I'm the next door neighbor. I had the privilege of growing up with Cece and Marcus and spent far too much time in the Irwin household, especially after school. But Greg, or as I like to call him, Gregorio, he was probably one of the most fun adults to play with up until the later years. And one of my favorite games that we would play with him was this game that we called Golden Baby. And there was no baby really, it was more of a strange doll, but basically Cece, Marcus, and I would wait by the door after Greg got home from work, and we'd have this look in our eyes and we'd hope, was it a good day at work? Was it a bad day at work? Because that would ultimately decide what our fate would be for the rest of the evening. And this game basically, I think it was fun for him because we enjoyed it so much, but ultimately, looking back, it was quite annoying of us. We would lay all the couch cushions down on the ground, and he would place the baby doll at the back of the couch, and we all basically take turns tackling him, trying to get past him. And we'd play it for hours on end, probably up into a point when we were too old to be playing it. But that was the kind of love and kindness that Greg offered. And there's always this overwhelming sense of protection and goodness that he gave. And I can just honestly say that the way that he impacted my childhood especially in my later years. I never knew someone to be such an encouraging presence and important presence in my life. And I feel grateful that I get to continue in sharing him with people in the way I listen, and also in the plethora of stories that I have fortunately been able to keep with me. Thank you.
I just want to say something. I am a friend of Chris's, known each other for 40 years. When she met Greg, he was a patient. And after a few visits, she came and said to me, I think I'm going to introduce him to Carrie. I'm going to give him Carrie's number. I'm like, Chris, really? You're really going to do this? She goes, yeah, I think they'd be good together. Well, all these years later, you know, they were the best. I was privileged to be at their wedding, and I know when Marcus was born, Chris did not like elevators. We would be on an elevator at work, and she would turn around, look at the back, and say, Julie, you tell me when we're there. And I think it was with Marcus that she got on an elevator and didn't turn back and was able to get up there so she could be with Carrie when Marcus was born. I do believe God was a part of Chris getting those two together, and I believe with my whole heart that he is looking down on everybody and was just truly amazed at all the lives that he has touched, because he did touch everyone, and even mine, even though I didn't see him all that often, but whenever I did, he was always just a wonderful person.
You're with me here. I don't know what it is with the Bell family, but we're kind of wrecks. I'm Ryan Bell, friend of Greg, fellow soccer dad, and I just wrote some words. Wanted to share. When you look back on life, on a life well lived, it isn't just about the years, but about the people. For me, those years mean something. For me, that was Greg. Greg wasn't just a friend, he was family. He was a vital part of the Irwin crew, the chaotic, wonderful blending of the Burns, Bell, and Irwin families. Looking out today, I see all the faces of children who grew up together, bonded by soccer weekends, ski trips, and countless other get-togethers. Throughout all of it, Greg was right there. He treated our children as if they were his own. Cheering for them and supporting them in absolutely everything they did. Whether he was standing on the sidelines of a soccer field or coaching our kids in youth basketball, Greg always had a unique gift for bringing out the best, the absolute best, in every child he encountered. He was incredibly selfless. He never did any of this for recognition. He did it because he simply, deeply cared about others. Greg never wanted things to be about him. His only goal was making sure everyone around him felt loved and supported. He had a gentle heart and a truly giving soul, and that showed through in every single interaction he had with our family and so many others. As the common theme here today, Greg was our resident outdoorsman. He had his this profound love for nature, and true to his generous spirit, he shared that passion with all of us, never expecting anything in return. He taught my son and me to appreciate the quiet, still mornings on the lake, and to really see the beauty around us on our trips up north to Port Austin and Bear Lake. He taught my son how to fish like a champion. I'd like to say he taught me how to fish too, but considering I never caught anything, I suppose even Greg's patience had its limits. Beyond the outdoors, Greg was our go-to guy for historical stories, facts, and what was occasionally highly skilled, useless knowledge. We absolutely loved it. We loved hearing whatever he had to share because it was coming from him. Greg was an amazing man. He was a devoted husband, a loving father, a brother, an uncle, a son, and to so many of us, a truly exceptional friend. He touched so many lives and probably had no idea of his true impact, simply because he was too busy caring about everyone else. I could stand here and go on and on about what a great human Greg is, but knowing him, he's probably up there right now wanting me to stop talking. So I will simply say this. Greg, we love you. We appreciate the person you are and the light you brought into our lives. We will miss you more than words can ever describe. You will never ever be forgotten, always holding a dear, irreplaceable place in our hearts.
I wanted to say something real quick. I'm Lori's daughter, Ella. Greg was my uncle, and I have a little story about him. He was the only Irwin who could sit still, and he was the only Irwin who could be quiet. And I remember, me and my brother would come up here, and there'd always be the Irwin, we're all doing this, and what's the itinerary, and we're going to the lake, we're going to Cedar Point, all this stuff. And, Greg, I remember there was one trip, I think I was like 12. We came up here, we had been here for like a week or something, because it was kind of a lot to come up here because we're all the way down in Texas, right? But I always loved it because, you come up here and the trees are so tall and so full. They feel like real trees, and everything's so green. And I just, would really appreciate all the finer little observations about nature. And I noticed that Greg did too. And I never really spent much one-on-one time with him until I think it was the day before we were about to head home to Texas. It was like the last, day of the trip before airport craziness in the morning. Grammy and Grandpa will make sure we got to the airport 2.5 or 3 hours early, So before all that, last day of relaxing. And I don't know the difference between canoe or kayak, but whatever. We were on a little dinghy, and we were going through this placid water, and I remember they teamed up Uncle Kevin with Seb, my brother, I'm pretty sure, and then I was with Greg. And I remember just gliding through the placid water, looking at all the trees, and it was nice. It was silent, and occasionally Greg would point out something, be like, softly, and be like, yeah, this is this tree, or this is, there's these certain kinds of snakes that live in this stuff, and I would be so fascinated, and I loved to listen. And then, me as a little kid, I was nature and history were big special interests of mine, so I'd come out with my little facts and stuff, and he probably knew everything that I was saying, but he still listened. I mean, everyone here knows how he would listen. And I remember that quiet little trip in that little kayak made me feel really close to him, even though we live very far away. And, you know, this whole past month or so, you know, thinking about this, all leading up to all this happening, and anticipating my grief, you know, I can still say that, you know, I did lose someone, even though I wasn't, you know, around much. But I still feel him, and I still felt him. And this morning I couldn't sleep. I woke up early, couldn't go back to sleep, and I went on a walk. And I came to this pond, and there was a blue heron there. And I could just think of how, if Greg was sitting there, and he saw it, and we both have the same, we'd just be quiet, because he knew how to be quiet, and look and listen and really appreciate. And that blue heron, it was pacing along the edge of the water, and then it would lift up and just glide, how those big waterbirds glide. There's no flapping, no, you know, and I could just kind of imagine, like, you know, it's Greg, that piece, you know. And I thought he would really enjoy that. And so I guess that's all I was thinking about this morning, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I'm Burns. I'm part of the Irwins. And we are lucky enough to have Greg and Carrie as friends and neighbors. Just one thing about Greg that I think a lot of people have said is that his calm, his kindness, his understanding, his supportiveness, and he's like that with my whole family and my kids, but he's also like that with me as an adult. One thing that I really like to do is, and I like to paint, and Greg has always been one of my biggest fans. Like, he's so amazed at this painting that I do, and how he thinks it's like, oh no, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So I always kind of want to emulate, or I'd like to be more like that. Sometimes I run through life too quickly and I don't think things through like Greg does. He really thinks things out. He really appreciates things in a little slower way, and I want to be more like that. And when I was thinking of that, I painted some rocks that I collected at Lake Michigan, which I know he would like to have done that with me, that say WWGD, what would Greg do? I left them out in the hall, so if you would like one, it can be a worry stone, or it can be in your garden, or you can set it on a ledge. But I would like to think like that. What would Greg do in this situation? Because I would do it one way, and I would like to slow down a little bit and think about how he would do it, because I think we all could use a little bit more thoughtfulness and a little bit more kindness in our lives. Amen. So I'm sure you feel the same about him.
Hi, my name's Andrew. Marcus and Cece, your dad been really proud. It's brave to get up here and talk. He's been really proud of you guys today. So the story I have is we took a family vacation with the Irwins to Florida, to the Keys, and Greg and I talked the girls into letting us go deep sea fishing for the day while they watched the kids. Very mature, I know. And we went out, and we caught 4 sailfish that day. There were 4 of us on the boat. And I watched Greg fight a 7-foot sailfish for about 90 minutes. And I laughed, and he was much better at bringing his in than I was, but I still laughed at him. And then that day, when we were rolling back into the boat, he just had this big smile on his face. He was just thinking about the fish we caught. And that evening, after we had dinner with the family, we walked down to the bait store and bought 2 key lime pies. And we came back and we sat at this picnic table and both ate our own key lime pie. Yeah, Carrie's right. Actually, every day we walked and got a key lime pie. And we both ate a key lime pie each.
But what was really interesting is after that, we're sitting there, the kids are running around, and the girls are sitting by our side, and he said, you know what, today was a really good day. And every time I hear that phrase, I think of him. My dad used to say it when we go fishing later on too, and I just think today is a really good day because there's so many people here to celebrate Greg. Based on the traffic yesterday and all the people here today, Marcus, I know earlier you said you win some and you lose most. I'd say for what's important in life, I think your dad won most and lost some. So, thank you.
Okay, bear with us. All three of us hate crying in front of people. I'm Maddie. I'm Dakota. I'm Maggie. We're CC's roommates. I'll start off by saying Carrie and Greg became second parents to us. The second we got to school, college can be really, really hard for people. And Greg and Carrie were those two parents on the sideline that even if our parents didn't come to a game, they were always there, always the first ones we would hug after we got off the field. And I think that really showed who Cece was and who she became to us. Irwin love is constant. It's something that I have admired being your best friend. And you've changed my life, your family has changed my life, and
a lot of you have said today, like the calmness in Greg, and we see that with Cece. Like, a lot of us are kind of more the hectic ones. She knows how to calm us all down, and Greg was always helpful. I remember we would goof around in our room, and I broke my back hard. Greg was there in an instant to fix it. He was always helpful. And he was at every game to talk to my parents and just talk about anything to make all of us happy. I first got to know Cece only 2 years ago, and the first thing that stood out about her was just like obviously her charm and just her smile. And the first time that I met her dad, I realized, oh, this is where she got her charm from. And even though knowing Cece for only 2 years and her family, Greg made a lifetime impression on me. We would share a lot of fishing stories because I would bring fishing poles to school, and I told him, you have to bring Cece a fishing pole. So I took Cece out fishing and put on the worm for her, of course. And whenever I would see Greg, I would just be so excited to just tell him about all the fish I caught. And just the love that he had in his eyes, like for me and just for outdoors, it's like I'm gonna carry that for the rest of my life. And it was hard because we never got to go fishing together. But every time I go fishing, I cast a couple out for him. Even if I don't catch anything, I know that he'd be very happy with me.
One story I have is kind of funny, but our freshman year, I mean, all of us were inseparable. We could not, I mean, we still are. We could not spend seconds without each other, and we got our first spring break news, and we were like, oh, we're gonna, we should plan this whole trip, and we were like, oh my gosh, no parents, first time, we're so adult, and Cece's like, guys, I don't know, my dad's gonna be not gonna let this happen. And they were like, oh, come on, see, like, you know, we gotta go. Like, we were gonna, like, they were like, we're gonna drive and all this stuff. And she was like, no, guys, seriously, like, I don't know. And I remember me and Cece were roommates freshman year also, but she was like, Maddie, I gotta make a slideshow. She's like, I talked to my dad and he said, if you make me a slideshow and you tell me exactly what you're gonna do and why you wanna go and all this, maybe I'll let you. And I remember we went down to Dakota's room and we were working on, and she was presenting her Canva slideshow. It was like pink and bedazzled, and I was like, oh, Greg's gonna love this one. How can you say no to your little girl with all the pink and the glitter, right? And, you know, we were just fixing it up, making sure that everything looked good, and I think it was like midwinter break, she went home and like showed it to him, and she was like, he made me watch every kidnap movie. Start to finish, and Maddie, I'm scarred. And I was like, and I think it was just funny at the time because, I mean, obviously, that's his baby girl, you know? He doesn't want anything to happen to you, and although we would make jokes that us three would beat the shit out of somebody if they ever did anything to Cece. It still stands. Cece's our girl. She's our girl, but I think looking back now, like, again, that was just a foreshadow of like how much he wanted to keep you safe, and he always was like, oh, if anything happens, I will literally drive to Florida. And I mean, we knew that was true. Like, if we need anything, SOS Greg on the line, get him on. But yeah, that's one of my funny stories.
I also have another story. I have a lot of stories. Super great. During soccer season, at the end of every game, sometimes my parents weren't always able to make it. But Cece's parents were always there, and I was always met with this big bear hug. And nothing felt better after getting our butts kicked. And Greg would wrap you up in a hug and tell you did great, even though you might have just warmed up the bench the whole time. And every single moment that I had with him, he always made me feel like I was worth something and that I had a bright future and that every single thing that I did, I was doing right. He made me feel so special. Thank you.
One more thing.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm sorry, this is long. I kind of knew it would be, that's why we all three went up here at the same time. I remember the night that I knew Greg had cancer. I mean, Cece and I were very close. We rarely confided each other in emotional ways because we knew we were going to break down any second. But I remember the night that she told me that he only had a couple months left to live. And I remember reflecting that week and was just like, how does she do it? Like, Cece was the girl who woke up at 6 in the morning to go run 6 miles, and she never missed a class throughout college. The one time she missed a class was for something for her dad. She was always on time, always doing the extra stuff, and I mean, I just thought to myself, like, how does she do it? Because, oh my gosh, like, I just couldn't even imagine, and I remember sitting her down, and I was like, you know, are you going to finish the semester here? Like, are you going to go online? And she's like, he'd want me to do what I'm doing. And he'd want me to, you know, get up every day and do exactly what I'm doing because that's what I'm meant to do. And I think that's just a testament to how Greg's unconditional love was through his kids and Carrie. And, I mean, honestly, you've inspired us three to get our asses up out of bed in the morning. Because if Cece's going through this and she's getting her shit done, we gotta do it too, so. But yeah, I'm so proud of you, and we're so lucky that we were able to know Greg, and I hope that we are in the Irwin family forever. So, I love you.
My name is Will Burns. I am the boy Burns in the Irwin group, Marcus's roommate and friend of the family. And I want another fishing story, believe it or not, but I am not really a morning person either. And Greg would always take Marcus and Ryan and Riley out fishing in the morning, and I would always miss the early trips because I like to sleep in. Well, one summer when we were up at Bear Lake, Greg decided, he was going to take the boat out a little bit later, so I actually got to join for this one. And after being on the lake, doing, as Marcus likes to call it, a lot of casting, we weren't catching a lot. We were faking it till we make it. And a lot of lost rods, or lures. We caught more trees than we ever did fish, especially me. But on the way back, as it always is, me, Riley, and Marcus are chatting it up, having a great time, not paying attention as Greg's running the motor in the back, and we're supposed to be the eyes in front. And we are going barreling straight for this other boat that is fishing. And we catch it with time to spare, but it is close. And we were really, really not doing our job. And after a good scolding from the other boat and from Greg, we sat in silence staring out at the front of the boat to make sure we made it back safe. And as we're bringing the boat in, we're tying it up, and we're all really nervous about, what's going to happen next. After this big scolding, all of us keeping our eyes down, just trying to make sure we can do things right finally. Greg kind of looks at us, and he goes, "Man, that sure was close," and starts laughing. And I just remember a huge weight coming off my chest, because as much as, he gave us a certain talking to and told us what we needed to do, at the end of the day, he was just happy we made it back and we had a good time and we had a good day at the lake. And that was something that I thought Greg always did, and something that I have with Marcus as well, We like to have a good time, but at the end of the day, having each other and having a good time with us and enjoying the little things in life is something that I have to do and something that Greg always taught me and something that I learn from Marcus every day.
Thank you all so much for coming. This is such a testament to who he is. He was just such a simple person. He didn't want this, and we had a little bit of an argument that we needed this, and it wasn't about him. It was about the people that loved him and wanted to celebrate him. So that's one thing about Greg. He would always then calm down and be like, "Okay, I know, I'm sorry, you're right. It's not about me, it's about you after." Because this is who he is, and I don't think he really truly knew the impact he had on everyone, and it is such a strong impact that I hear from everyone, so thank you for coming. Greg was a man who appreciated life's simple gifts. He didn't need extravagant attention. He found joy in what mattered most: time with family, quiet moments outdoors, the History Channel, and the peace that comes from being surrounded by God's creation. He said the forest was his church, where he could watch the world come alive and he could contemplate and think. Like, that's where he was closest with God. There was something about being near the water that brought him peace. Fishing and hunting wasn't something he just did. It was where he felt at home. It was in those quiet moments surrounded by nature that he could simply be still. Through his long battle with cancer, he showed strength, courage, and perseverance. It was his goal to provide for us and to work until he couldn't work anymore because he wanted, it just was who he was. He put us first. As hard as I tried to get him to take a step back, to take a vacation, he needed to provide because that's the man he was. Even in the difficult days, he taught us something powerful about resilience, faith, and enduring love. His life reminds us to slow down, to appreciate what truly matters, and to treasure the people we love. We will remember him in the quiet mornings, the still waters, the rustle of the trees, the peace of nature, geese flying by, and all the places where we feel close to him. Thank you so much for coming to celebrate Greg's life. We would like to extend an invitation to you all to join us at Red Run Golf Club for a luncheon to follow this. Thank you.
Folks, this concludes our celebration of life service for Greg Irwin. Once again, if I might just reiterate on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Irwin, and Carrie, and Cecilia, and Marcus, their sincere appreciation for all of you taking the time to be here with them, both last night and today. And I remind you again, as did Carrie, you're welcome to join the family and encouraged to join the family at Red Run Golf Course, where a reception will be held in Greg's memory. Red Run is on Rochester Road near 12 Mile in Royal Oak. If anyone should need assistance with directions, just ask any one of the young people in the room to put in your phone. They'll get you there. At this time, with the exception of the immediate family gathered here, I'd like to invite you to quietly make your way out to your cars and to Red Run, allowing them just a few moments here by themselves before they take their leave. Thank you very much for your kind attention.